Wow, we are outside the studio and at a wonderful place like Thiruvannamalai and in the foothills of Arunachal Hill, Arunachaleshwara, right? And people who haven't known about Dr. Sweta, you should go watch the 2 episodes on Prana Stories, the 2 previous episodes on what we have spoken. And people who have really watched Prana Stories, Dr. Sweta's episode, thank you so much. You have really made it into a blockbuster hit. We have had like amazing views and amazing responses to those 2 episodes. What did we speak about? We spoke about the science of mantras. What are mantras and what does the mantra have the effect on your brain? And there is scientific evidence to prove that. But in those 2 episodes, we definitely spoke mostly in theoretically. And here we are in Thiruvannamalai. We got a beautiful opportunity. We got invited by these 121 Vadyars or priests who were chanting the Rudram. It is a chant. The Rudra is the another form of Shiva, right? So we were invited to be a part of that Maharudram, which is 121 into 11 times, which is around 1331 times of chanting. It was a beautiful experience. The vibe was completely divine. It kind of elevated all our experiences positively. Dr. Sweta will speak about the thing that we did for the chanters before, and for the listeners, basically for people who are listening to the chant, what happens to their brain. We did that EEG recording of that on their brains. So let's, this is such a beautiful example of what we spoke in the Science of the Mantras episode, right? So here is the evidence for you, audience, that if you are seeking for such a solid evidence that you want that the mantras work for you, if you are doing it in silent, or if you are chanting, or if you are doing it in private, anything and everything that you do in terms of chanting or meditation will have that effect on your brain. And this is the evidence that we kind of shared. So I'll let Dr. Sweta speak about it. Yeah, over to you.
Hello and namaskar to all of you who have been watching the previous episodes, of course, as Praveen mentioned. And those of you who are new, we welcome you on this beautiful journey. So I'm extremely grateful to all the people who have made this happen. Of course, that starts with my parents always, and that starts with my guru as well, spiritual teachers. Now, just for the people who may be new, so I'm Dr. Sweta Adatia. I joke and I say I'm a brain plumber. I fix broken brains, but that's a very boring day job that I do. What is very important is kindling the power of the brain that we have. 100 billion neurons, trillions of synapses. The memory capacity is equivalent to 2.5 petabytes. And would you want to guess what a petabyte is?
Yeah, please go ahead.
1,000,000 gigabyte, which means I take all the memory capacities of the brain and stack it into Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest tower. I live in Dubai, so immediately I get connected to Burj Khalifa. And that would not be still enough. Now, in this world, we all struggle for memory, focus, concentration, power. And fortunately enough, I think ancient traditions or ancient wisdom has so much of a power to not just preserve this beautiful brain function, but to also enhance it. And today, extremely fortunate to be in this beautiful location. It's Thiruvannamalai in the southern part of India, and extremely grateful to Swami Brahmatmananji of Antahkarana Nilayam for this invitation. Because as Praveen mentioned, we had this beautiful experience of people chanting Rudram. Now, this was my very first exposure to chanting of this magnitude, of course, and very first exposure also to do the live brain scans as the people are chanting. I think chanting is such a such a beautiful remedy, but unchecked or not explored. Let's
Not
put it uncharted. It's such a wonderful uncharted territory. So what is Rudram chanting all about? So chanting is essentially extremely powerful, and Rudram chanting in particular, when many people are chanting together, we wanted to come and see from the Limitless Brain Lab, and I thank to all the people working behind the scenes. I am here, but I represent all the people who work to get those brain scans done, to get them evaluated, to get them properly monitored so that we can bring in the right evidence. Now, yesterday what happened was we all gathered, 121 priests were there. We chanted 11 times Rudra Suktam, and before and after we were able to gather some data of the electroencephalogram. Like you have ECG, which goes up and down, most of you would have seen the ECG, the same way the brain waves go up and down. Technically, let's talk a little bit about the brain, because some people may be new, and I always keep talking that there are 3 brains that we have. One is called the brain stem. I'm breathing, my heart is beating, it's because of that brain stem. Next is my limbic system, or the emotional system. I feel, I can love, I hate, I don't like this, I like this. All the emotions are coming from that limbic system. Basically, limbic system is like a protector. Any threat which comes in, and fear, freeze, fight, flight, all this is happening from the limbic system. And then if I go a little bit up, there is prefrontal cortex, and that is right here. Now, most of the human consciousness, or most of the humanness experience, comes from this prefrontal cortex. Now, if we look back into our lives, if we do a little bit of day audit, a little bit of week audit, a month audit, technically a year's audit, we would see a lot of fears creeping in daily in our lives. And there was a large study which was done that we think 50,000 thoughts a day. And I was quite intrigued that, wow, that's like a tsunami of thoughts that happen. But if you really think deeper a little bit, there was a very interesting thing which was found. 3 essential patterns in that thinking. One of them is relationships. Now, obviously, we deal with people. So relationship was number 1 repetitive thought in that experiment. Number 2 was work and money. Obviously, resources are required, right? You cannot function without money, job, profession, whatever it is. So that was again a recurring thought which was found. And the third important thing, would you want to guess that, Praveen?
You said already relationships, money.
It was about health. Self-health.
Okay.
So most of the people generally think repetitively these 3 things.
And maybe that also comes from the fear of death, maybe?
100%, right? Fear is such a primal emotion. We call it primal because they are basic emotions which drive us, right? We need food, right? We cannot survive without water. So fear is something which is ingrained. It is inherent. Now, fear protects us because the idea is we want to live longer. Of course, everybody of us wants to live 100 years. And fear is sort of a protective mechanism. But sometimes that goes unchecked. Yeah. There's a lot of fear for everything. The moment you wake up in the morning until you go down to sleep, it's always fear which comes in. Now, Rudram chanting has been shown to alleviate this fear. This particular sense of, I would say, not, feeling optimum or not feeling balanced, not feeling enough. And that is a big problem which a lot of people face, right? If you talk to youngsters, they always feel imposter syndrome. They feel that, they would have done something fantastic, but they feel that they're not enough. And not just children, let's talk about adults as well. How many of you do feel that, there's always this kind of inadequateness, or there's always that imperfection which comes in. There's always that fear, what people are thinking, what is happening. So fear is an inherent part. But when goes unchecked, that's when the problem comes. So Rudra Suktam is shown to be alleviating that fear. Now, obviously, I always say that, Vedic chants are beautiful. The Vedic tradition is beautiful. The way it is spoken, the way it is said, even if we don't know the meaning. I mean, this was my very first time exposure to that meaning as well. But I think you have been chanting for quite a while.
Yeah.
So even when we don't know the meaning, the way the intonations of chanting happen, they have a deep significance in the brain.
Yeah, I think we will be including Swamini's.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
you may want to talk about that.
100%. Thank you for bringing that out. So Swamini Vimalananda ji, my spiritual teacher, would be talking about what is Rudra Suktam. And she's just got a new book published also exactly on the Rudra Suktam. And I think beautiful thing about the entire Vedic chanting. Let's Rudra Suktam is one of the portions or hymns which is sung to Lord Shiva. And I always like, I get reminded when I think of Shiva, we are Shava, but we have to convert to Shiva.
Yeah.
So that tattva or that essence, what is very, very important, is all within us. It is all inside out, pervading. It's all there, right? How do we invoke it? How do we get those qualities? How do we get fear alleviated? How do we get the best judgment, my best thinking, discrimination, viveka? How do I get to know what is good and bad? How do I get to know to have the optimum health or optimum wealth? And prosperity, right? Abundance is beautiful. Why? There's no harm in not asking for abundance. I mean, we all want abundance and we wish abundance. These Vedic mantras have the power to access that. Let's put it that way. These are kind of golden keys.
Yeah.
So they access that through a mechanism, and that is what we were interested in. And I'm going to talk about it in a while on what do you see when you chant this. But let's come to the basics of chanting first. So chanting, anything, any chanting which involves intonations, where you go a little up, where you go a little down, there are variations in it, has a deep, deep influence on the brain and the nervous system in general. Nervous system in general is largely what is about parasympathetic and sympathetic. Let's understand what is that. When I am active, I want to fight a certain problem, I want to address something, my sympathetic system is active, which means I breathe faster, my heart is beating, going before the exams, I always get reminded, when your palms are sweaty, you're completely, fog, you think that everything is forgotten. You're so much driven by fear. That is sympathetic system. And there is a basal system which is called parasympathetic system. What is that? That allows you to calm down, cool off, have the right thinking, approach the problem without feeling insecure or unattended or feeling that everything is just right. That parasympathetic system is nothing but the famous vagus nerve or the vagal tone. This vagal tone is extremely important for us in our everyday life, every day, mark my words, because once in a while chanting has nothing. Okay, yes, some benefit of course would come in, and that's what we also felt the power when so many people are chanting. It's always best to do it in thousands because that amplifies the effect that we were just talking. But when you do it consistently, you increase the tone of that parasympathetic system. So all of you, your digestion will improve, your heart will beat faster, your brain will be functioning better, your overall systems would be much better. So of course we will talk about the brain, but I think it was a beautiful experience. Would you agree to that?
Yes, of course. I mean, I was wondering. I mean, I was looking at the machine that you were having, the live scanning that was going on, and it was a very new learning experience for me. I have seen it only in labs and stuff like that, but we were on the spot when the chanting was going on, and we figured how many we did live scanning of how many people?
9 people.
9 people.
Yes.
Wow, fantastic! That's a good number as well.
Yes.
So, do you want to talk about the scan itself?
Sure. So we studied the brain for a reason, and we studied particularly the Rudram chanting also for a reason. Now, Rudram chanting or Rudram and Chamakam, there are 2 parts to it, is very, in the ancient good old traditions, it has been shown to be very powerful for uplifting of the mind. I was just talking about that fear, the limbic system, the system which pulls you down, the system which does not allow you to have a clear thinking of the prefrontal cortex. In fact, chanting that has been shown to improve that. Now, how does this improvement get captured? That is the important thing. How do I know? If I can know that what is my pulse rate, what is my blood pressure, immediately I know parasympathetic is kicking. But how do I know what is happening in the brain? So that is what can be measured with an electroencephalogram. So what we did was very simple. We invited all the people who were passively listening to the chants, because when you talk, obviously the signals don't come out right. So what we did was we had, of course, and I think Praveen also became a partial neurologist. He also helped us fix these systems. I mean, they are pretty simple systems, but
now I know how to fix the thing.
Exactly, right? So I think we'll just keep one system with him. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so what we did was we actually had those systems up. We did a pre-scan when there was no chanting going on, and then a post-chant. We took a 21-channel electroencephalogram, and we run through an algorithm, and especially Limitless Brain Lab has also built a proprietary algorithm. So we run through that to see what part of the brain is functioning better, what part of the brain is optimally functioning. And there are 4 fundamental brain waves that if you have not watched our previous videos, please do go ahead and watch. There are 4 fundamental brain waves which are very important, and they're all the time active. As I'm talking to you, I'm thinking. As Praveen is listening, he's attentively doing that. That is beta wave. It's a fast rhythm which comes in the brain. The moment we close our eyes and the moment we sit still, there is alpha, a sinusoidal slow rhythm, 8 to 12 hertz, which gets kicked in just before going to sleep. And for those of you who feel meditation is difficult, try meditation just before your sleeping time, because naturally you will be in that theta state, so the access would be much easier. These are, hacks. I mean, the modern world is all about hacks, right? So this is a very simple, quick hack that you can pursue, and once you fall off to sleep, it's a very slow delta. Now, how do I know what is a good brain? How do I know what is really happening in the brain? Your alpha should be all at the back, a good brain. Your beta should be in the front. Your theta should be again somewhere here at the back. And delta, technically, because you are awake, you are alert, should not be there. Now, we do compare, when we take the raw scan, we do compare it with a normative standard. Now, what our intention was to see, when people are chanting, what is the change? What is the shift which is happening? Any shift which is happening in the brain essentially is giving the shift in the emotion. That is giving the shift in the feeling. Because when I was passively listening, the emotion that I felt was calmness. Emotion that I felt was bliss.
Yeah.
Emotion that I felt was I'm centered. I feel enough. I'm adequate. So I don't know what was your feeling as you, because we had the opportunity to listen to practically 1,000 times of the chanting.
Correct. So for me, it was more of the I don't know, I was feeling very, I don't know, because it was a very community kind of feeling, that there are people around and everybody is gathered or focused their energy into one kind of energy which was being, offered, flowers and all that, right? So that itself was giving me a sense of calm, that safety and that feeling of safety, that I'm kind of protected.
Absolutely.
Nothing will happen to this place, kind of thoughts were coming to
Absolutely. Beautiful. So everybody has a different mind and then a different feeling set which emerges from this. Now, what is very, very important is when many people are chanting together, we call it coherence. Yeah. The effect when I chant or when I listen passively versus when everybody is chanting together and also listening. So both things are happening simultaneously, right?
I have to, sorry to interrupt. I have to highlight one more thing. There were these 30 small little children.
Oh, yes.
That I can't miss highlighting this. We'll be showing the videos of
100%.
them. They're like maybe from a 7-year-old or maybe even lesser than that to a 13-year-old.
Beautiful, right?
They can just chant any of these Vedas. I don't know any of the Vedas, but at least one of the Vedas. Just like that.
Beautiful. And that is the beauty of the ancient traditions. We used to have Gurukula system. So children would just go learn with the Guru. And chanting for children is extremely important. In fact, chanting is very, very important right from all those pregnant women also who's listening to this episode, because every second, mark my words very, very, very carefully, every second, 250,000 brain cells are forming in the last trimester.
Wow.
250,000 every second. And as the child is 0 to 3 and 0 to 5, close to 7,000 brain connections are happening a second.
Right.
So I always say never miss a second with a child, right? It's not about a minute as well. By the minute, few more neurons are developed, few more things are happen. So when children understand and learn, they may not understand the meaning, which is perfectly all right, right? They chant it, and you should see some of them chanting. Absolutely, it was a delight for us to watch, right? Yeah. They were just absolutely immersed in that chanting. There was no other thought going on. That is the beauty with which they can focus, they can attend. Children have amazing memory capacity. They can absolutely, they're like passive osmotic learners. We, as we become old, our learning, there's a beautiful, beautiful study by Harvard, and let's post this here, because as we grow old, the learning trajectory sort of dips, and for the child, it's like an upstroke which is there, and which means that whatever we teach to our children, they are going to memorize it better, they're going to reproduce it better, they're going to recall it better, much better than what you and me can think. Now, what really happens is they would forget about it for years together. Let's say that, they become 25, 30. One fine day that emerged or immersed subconscious, this is like, giving them what we call a sanskara. We also call it the subconscious impressions.
Yeah.
These sort of impressions do surface up when problems, when challenges. Look, life is all about that, right? You and me cannot say we are foolproof and protected and challenge is not going to come. That is the beauty of life. Challenges come, we go through pain or we grow through pain. So when that comes, that subconscious impressions would be up there and they would be able to look at that and get back to the meaning from that. That is the beauty of these mantras or these kind of traditional chanting that we have. And coming back to the feeling, so what I felt, what he felt, what we all felt, and in fact, I have to thank the entire organization for making us have these kind of facility. So what we all felt was a sense of union. I think that sense of that oneness, sense of that centeredness all together. And that is, let's say, in terms of my brain expression, how do I capture that? So we did an attempt at capturing what is really happening in individual brains, and then we collect all the data together to see what is the outcome. Most people who obviously came to the place came in a relaxed state because they were prepared for the mental puja or mental offering what was to happen, and that is the reason why most of them primarily had a lot of alpha because they were relaxed, and even the moment they closed their eyes we saw a lot of nice good baseline alpha. The world is in the alpha deficit. We are all beta fired. The brain is so much beta wired and beta fired.
So could it be the reason that the moment you enter into such a place,
100%.
yes, and then you see all the paraphernalia of the
Absolutely.
people around and the rituals that are going on, that itself sort of brings
Absolutely. Why do we need temples, or why do we need worship places? Why do we need churches? Why do we need mosques? We need all of this because there is a reason, because to calm your mind down by yourself, and especially if it's a very, very, very fast, wired beta rhythm that you and me can be in. Let's assume that I have a Ferrari. I don't know why Ferrari comes to me all the time, but I have a Ferrari which is 150 kilometers speed with which it is going a minute. It's like a super fast this. And suddenly I want to stop that Ferrari. I want to stop that mind. I want to stop that high functioning beta. Very difficult, very, very difficult. Do not attempt it also. But the moment you get into these worship places, the moment you listen to the hymns, the moment you listen to prayer, the moment you listen to azan, automatically calms you down, automatically makes you into that alpha state. And that is the reason why we need to get that quick state, because that quick state is not possible with our efforts. So collective efforts, the entire, I'm not going to talk in the energy sense, although we will bring up the little bit of energy because we did that study as well. But what happens is automatically an alpha generates. So most people had this alpha as the baseline.
So out of the 9, everybody had the?
Pretty much everybody had
Okay.
the alpha.
Wow.
Everybody, every single person had the alpha. And that was sort of preempted. It's expected, right? Now, what happened was everybody, the way we conducted our thing was everybody listened to one entire offering of the 11 times of the Rudra chanting which was done. So when they completed that, we again saw what is happening in their brain scans. Two very distinct things were shown. One of them is that everybody, as they were passively listening to this 150 people chanting all together, there was gamma wave which happened. Now, I never talked about gamma, right? 4 fundamental waves, but the 5th one is gamma. Normally, we don't produce that much of a gamma. Now, gamma, I can also say it's a super wave. Why is it a super wave? Because producing gamma, it's even more than the beta. It's like a super fast rhythm, but that allows all the brains to synchronously fire. It's about cognition, which is amplified. It is about understanding, which is beyond my normal intelligence. It is a way which is very beautiful to have most times across the brain. It is something which we find in meditators. It is something which also we see in people who have been doing practices of any kinds, prayers. Buddhist monks have been shown to have that. A lot of people, even for that matter, a lot of Christian, the popes have been shown to that. So that essentially is like a divine wave. It's like a divine rhythm, let's put it that way. So gamma wave is like something which you really have to do it with effort. Okay. So imagine now just listening one simple, passive round of 11, everybody went into that gamma state. So, very important for us to get in and get out of these states.
What I meant to say was, gamma wave is difficult to hit when you are in the urban setting, when you are doing
100% difficult to hit. Absolutely, it's close to impossible to hit that gamma wave, right? Because unless we regularly do something, unless we are immersed into these kind of practices, so almost impossible. So this is again a time when you have the opportunity to build that gamma. Now all of them went into gamma firing. The moment the chanting stopped, they again went back to that fundamental alpha. So it's beautiful. This modulation is extremely important. I want to build, let's say, my biceps, or I want to build my deltoid. I don't just look at it and say, hey, my biceps, why don't you just develop? I have to work towards it. I don't look at the brain and say that, I want to get out of stress. I'm overthinking. I am not thinking right. Things are not happening in my mind correct. I don't feel. I'm numbed. All these other expressions of the new time. I'm burned out. I can't function. I can't do optimal things. Why? Because you have to work towards it. You have to build that brain's muscle. You have to really push it through. And these modulations of the waves allow us to do that. Now, very beautifully, we also did some interview with the feeling of the people, as he was mentioning. What do they feel? Everybody will definitely, essentially, at the peak of alpha feel calm, and at the peak of gamma feel that oneness. That is the beautiful thing, what most people repeatedly told us of that feeling. So my sincerest and humblest of the requisition would be, why don't you guys try it? We're going to post one single chanting, and you guys, all of you at your places, wherever you are, and give us the comment and feedback. What is your feeling? Because that is the beauty of experiments, right? I mean, I'm a great fan of trying it out on self, and not that everything can be tried, but most things you can try it. I mean, chanting is one simple and easy way to understand what is it doing to you, because every mind, as I said, starts from a very different sense or very different substratum. So you want to know what is happening to your mind. Yes, fundamentally certain things will happen in gamma, but what happened to you in particular? And very, very interesting and important thing as we look at these brains is, if there was a chance for us to do working memory test. Now most phone numbers have 9 digits. Why is that? Why is it not a phone number 12 digit long or a 15 digit long?
That's what I can memorize.
Yes, exactly. That is my normal digit span. That's what I can take it at one point in time. Nowadays, I don't know who remembers the phone. Do you remember any of the phone number?
Earlier we used to.
We are
all
so
the landlines and all that stuff.
Absolutely. We are so dependent on something called the Google effect. The moment I don't need to remember, right? I can just Google it. I don't know what is the chat GPT effect going to be like. We still have to uncover that.
I still remember the number which we had, the landline number which we had earlier. I still remember it.
Yes, because that's an old memory. So, brain is so beautifully orchestrated. Let's talk about memory a bit, since he mentioned that. I want to attend, then I want to register it, then I want to code it, then I want to store it, and then I want to retrieve it. It goes beautifully in this entire function. Now, the older the memory it is, the better stored it is. It's like those files are appropriately coded and then stored, and retrieval becomes easier. That is the reason why when people have Alzheimer's dementia, and by the way, the rates are astronomically rising. The Alzheimer's dementia is nothing but not just the memory loss, orientation loss, judgment loss, mood dysregulation, sadness, so many factors which come in along with the Alzheimer's dementia. And the very important thing is the old memories are still alive and intact, but the working memory, my digit span, reduces. Now, most people who did this experiment along with gamma, the digit span would absolutely amplify. That means you are also giving the working memory muscle a little bit of work to do. When you keep on doing that work, automatically at a traditional your memory will expand. I get reminded of Dr. Kalai at this point in time. He's one of those guys who is a Shatavadan. He 100 things he all remembers at once, and we can just put up his brain here. Amazing alpha, amazing theta, amazing beta. So he's one of the guys who optimally utilizes pretty much the entire brain. And most people who believe, I use 5%, I use 7%, I use 10%, that's all a big myth, because we all use the brain all the time. It is very important for us to modulate, practice these areas, have an exercise so that we build it. This muscle is very, very important to build it. So everybody of us who wants a good memory, who wants good health, who wants wealth, who wants peace of mind, oneness, feeling centered, Rudra chanting is one of the solutions.
So, you mentioned that we did scanning of people who were listening.
Yes.
But I was also I was chanting a little. I think 4 or 5 anvakams. I mean, 4 or 5 rounds of 11 anvakams. I did. Was there any difference in that scanning?
Yes, absolutely. Even from the very first thing, as you rightly mentioned, you are in that environment, right? There's already the background of the people chanting. And then you focus on that one round of it is enough. In fact, in your brain also, we did see the gamma to come in and roll out very immediately.
In the beginning itself?
In the beginning itself, yes, absolutely.
Okay. That's amazing. And did you find anything which was very different in all the 9 people?
Not really. And that is the beauty that you validate, right? That everybody is going to have that almost similar function. You may start from a different. There were, I think, one of them who had a little bit of more beta. Now, obviously, we had a little bit of an age range also, and we purposefully chose. Our youngest guy was a 13-year-old boy to a 77-year-old gentleman.
He was a 7-year-old.
Yes, even a 7-year-old.
I mean, the scanner.
Yes, the scanner. So
the scanning you did on a 13-year-old.
Yes, that's right. So 13 to 77. And that is very important. When we study these things, we need to study at a wide spectrum of people. We need to study in different brain sets, right? And that is why the statistics plays a role. That is why knowing more, doing more, bringing in such experiments or such kind of opportunities is extremely necessary and important. Now, I was a skeptic. Many years flash back into my own life. I wouldn't believe anything. My mom and dad would say that, why don't you do a certain ritual, certain practice? And I was completely, I would say, atheist, yes, number one for sure, but very rebellious. That I won't do this, explain me the meaning of it. And that is what we, in today's time, our younger generations, we need to show these experiments. We need to bring them the evidence. And by the way, the evidence is very strong. Evidence is not something where I would say, oh, I think so, this is happening. Evidence is right there. And we did observe. And as we publish it or more information, we can just bring it out to the people who are really more interested as well. Because I'm sure there will be a lot of scientists, there will be a lot of other people, and who can also help us do and replicate such more things so that, I think I as a doctor feel that a very important thing which is lacking, and I often bring this out as an open forum discussion, is basically not understanding the complementary medicine in general. I cannot just say that allopathy will work. And there is a huge misconception that all allopathy is wrong, or, taking, let's say I'm depressed, I'm anxious, to take a medicine is wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. It is about the combination of the things that...
What works for you.
Absolutely. It's an individual physiology. It's an individual psychology. It's an individual make of your body and your brain. So possibly a little bit of allopathy, a little bit of complementary sciences will work. So very important for us to understand, not just from the development or the peak performance, but also from the health perspective. Because finally, all of this in good old days, tell me one facility which was like a big center or a hospital. I mean, which Puranas, which old textbooks mention that there was a big hospital and so many surgeons operated, and there was nothing of that sort, right? What we talked about was these natural flowers or natural remedies. We talked about healing. We never talked about treating. Why was that? Because we were able to do that as we were connected. We knew from the fundamental operations of that one individual cell. Trillions of cells make up my body. Trillions of cells make up my brain. So when we can get connected to that one little cell, the magic sort of starts to flow. Knowing your prakriti, knowing what you are, and we were just yesterday talking about it, eating a banana, right? Yeah. So we were saying that I'm a kapha prakriti, what Ayurveda mentions as kapha, vata and pitta. Very important for us to get that fundamental knowledge, and what essentially you are doing by bringing on these brain scans, or for that matter, autonomic nervous system examinations. We did that as well, just to prove that parasympathetic is the kicking portion or kicking system which comes in, allows us to basically consolidate that learning and apply it practically. Very important to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe as a parting shot, this I would like to say this, that people, the new age parents, or maybe even a little older kids, the parents of a little older kids, right? They struggle to keep their kids occupied. And here we see an example by the training and by the learning of these Vedas or the chanting that was going on. The entire 1331 repetitions of this Rudram takes 4 hours, and these kids were 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 staying put at their places where they were sitting, and they chanted the entire 4 hours.
Yes.
Without even getting tired or without complaining or मुझे बोर हो रहा है, मुझे
Yes.
ये नहीं करना है, I want to do that.
Yes.
There's nothing of that
Absolutely.
sort.
There were no phones.
Yeah, there were no phones. They were completely grounded. So
Yes.
one thing what I want to say is that, like you asked, what does chanting does to you? It keeps me grounded.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
It keeps me calm. It keeps
Absolutely.
me. It doesn't make me distracted in so many things. This ये भी करना है, वो करना है, ये करना है, वो करना है, वो करना है. It's like,
So in the end, I think what is very, very important, it allows you to build your PFC. The
Yeah.
gamma waves that we are talking about is all basically to have the symmetry. Most of the peak performers whom we have studied, and that's what the major part of the lab is, Limitless Brain Lab is all about understanding how to take the peak advantage of this human experience, how to take the advantage of this brain experience that we have. And most of the time we see 3 important things. Both the brains are symmetrically connected, which the chanting allows you to do that. Second thing is limbic system is under your control. If you don't master your mind will be your master, and then it can be a disaster. That's a nice rhyming thing.
Yeah.
So what is very important is to make it limbic. To get deactivation of that limbic system, you need to control that. That's number 2, and which was the case in most of these peak performers. A good athlete, if you see that, is not an athlete because he does all the physical practices well. It is how he uses his mental abilities, how he's grounded at that point in time. The reaction time, the response time is extremely important. And the third important thing what has been studied is where each of the waves are optimally functioning, and we did talk about that as well. So very important, these 3 things can be passively done, passively, very simple, you're not even actively doing that effort, very simply by putting one practice in your life. If you chant it, of course the effects would be multifold, but even if you passively participate, you're part of this entire chanting thing, or any Vedic tradition for that matter, is helping you to achieve that human potential. We did talk about energy. I'm going to close it with energy. Yes, the energy is also amplified. There are certain ways to measure that energy. I'm not an energy practitioner, or I don't have the energy this, but what is very important is to see that the chakras, all the 7 chakras that we have, chakras are nothing but the balance, the wheels around us of the energy. I always say that, I do see a star which is shining in the sky. We always see the star, but do we see that light what is coming through? Not really, because the medium is missing. So I have a physical body, and I do have an electromagnetic field which is around me as well. So we will talk about what happened in the energy in the next section as well.
Sure, we'll do that. And this is a fantastic thing to do. I think we have covered almost everything. I mean, this can't get better than this. In the first 2 episodes, we theoretically spoke about the science of the mantras and all aspects of the brain. And now we are showing it based on evidence, what really
Yes,
happens
absolutely.
based on chanting. So we have kind of completed the loop,
Yes.
and I'm sure the audience will take full advantage of it.
Absolutely.
And then take seriousness about chanting and meditation and practice it themselves, right? So we all can feel that connectedness and that feeling of oneness among us, and then have better ourselves in, it's like a what do you call, personal development
Absolutely.
thing, right? So,
Absolutely.
and with personal development you also do a community sort of a
Absolutely.
development. Hack.
All right. So thank you to each of you. We are extremely grateful for this journey.
नमस्ते अस्तायुधाय नामकाय धृष्णवे भाभ्यां हृदये नमो बाहुभ्यां तव धन्मने परिते धन्मनो भेदिरस्तां भृणक्तु विश्वतः अथो येषुभिस्तवारे अस्मन् विधेहितं नमो हिरण्यवाहवे सेनान्ये दिशां च पतये नमो नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यः पशूनां पतये नमो नमः स्वस्तिकरायक्षीमते पथीनां पतये नमो नमो प्रभुगाय विद्याधिने नानां पतये नमो नमो हरिकेशायोपवीतिने पतये नमो नमो भगस्य हेते जगतां पतये नमो नमो रुद्राय प्रतापिने क्षेत्र पतये नमो नमः सूताय हत्याय गणानां पतये नमो नमो रोहिताय स्थपतये वृक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो मन्त्रिणे वाणिकाय रक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो वायुवस्तुताय औषधीनां पतये नमो नमः उच्चैर्घोराय पतये पक्षीणां पतये नमो नमः कृत्समीकाय धावते सत्वनां पतये नमः सहमानाय विद्याभिनवाभ्याभिनीनां पतये नमो नमः प्रभुभाय सेनानां पतये नमो नमो निषङ्गिलेषु धिवते विस्तराणां पतये नमो नमो ग्रन्थते परिग्रन्थते स्थागूणां पतये नमो नमो निचेरवे पतये नमो नमः सिकामिभ्यो जिधातुं सभ्यो मुष्णतां पतये नमो नमः सुमध्वरप्रकन्तानां पतये नमो नमः उष्णीषिणे गिरिधराय गुरुन्त्राणां पतये नमो नमः नमो नमः आकन्पानेभ्यः प्रतिधानेभ्यश्च नमो नमः आयच्छभ्यो विसुरेभ्यश्च नमो 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 नमः आसीनेभ्यः शयानेभ्यश्च नमो नमः समभ्योजाग्रभ्यश्च नमो नमः त्रिभ्यः नमो नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च अश्वेभ्योऽश्वपतिभ्यश्च नमः नमः व्याधिभ्यो विरुध्यन्तेभ्यश्च नमो नमः उडनाभ्यस्त्रिभ्यश्च नमो नमः स्वेभ्यो वृत्सपतिभ्यश्च नमो नमः नमो गणेभ्यो गणपतिभ्यश्च नमो नमो विरूपेभ्यो नमो नमो महाभ्यः श्रूयतेभ्यश्च नमो नमो रथिभ्यो रथेभ्यो नमो नमः सेनाभ्यश्च सेनानिभ्यश्च नमो नमः नमो नमः सत्भ्यो रथकारेभ्यश्च नमः पुराणेभ्यः कर्मालेभ्यश्च नमो नमः कुञ्जिष्टेभ्यो विशालेभ्यश्च नमो नमः विशुद्धभ्यो धर्मजेभ्यश्च नमो नमो शनिभ्यश्च नमो नमः श्वभ्यश्च पतिभ्यश्च नमो भवाय रुद्राय च नमः शर्वाय च शुभदये च नमो नीलग्रीवाय च श्रीकण्ठाय च नमः प्रपद्ये गुप्तदेशाय च नमः सहस्राय च शतधन्वने च नमो गिरिशाय च श्रीकण्ठाय च नमो नीलुत्तमाय च नमो भरसाय च वामनाय च नमो बृहदे च बृहदीयसे च नमो वृद्धाय च समृद्धये च नमो अप्रियाय च प्रथमाय च नमः आश्वेताधिराय च नमः शीघ्राय च शीघ्राय च नमो भूम्याय च वत्सम्याय च नमः स्वपस्याय च प्रीत्याय च नमो ज्येष्ठाय च कनिष्ठाय च नमः पूर्वजाय च परजाय च नमो मध्यमाय च पदन्ताय च नमो जघन्याय च बुद्धियाय च नमः सोऽप्याय च प्रतिदत्याय च नमो याम्याय च क्षेम्याय च नमो उद्भव्याय च कल्याय च नमः स्तोप्याय च वसान्याय च नमो वन्याय च गत्याय च नमः श्रवाय च प्रतिश्रवाय च नमः आशुषेणाय च शतसाय च नमः शूराय च
யாரா பார்த்துட்டு கண்ணப்படி கேள்வியில் ஹைட் சென்டர்
Namaste.